Hey everybody, welcome back to Day-to-Day Chess. Today's Monday, fun day, hopefully. I'm gonna try to come up with new ways of seasoning up these weeks and my videos every single day. For the moment, I couldn't come up with something better than Monday Fun Day because I know many of us don't like Mondays because a new week starts, we have to go back to work and you know what's going on. It's boring, it's difficult. Come on, guys. It's Monday, it's fun. Like, it doesn't matter. Why does it matter that the Monday and Sunday, what's the difference between the two? Or Friday, you know? Like, just let's try to do something cool every single one of these days and not care which day of the week it is. We can have fun and enjoy our lives every single day. We don't know how much longer our life can last. So hey, have fun, guys. And of course, watch my YouTube channel and share it with your friends. Subscribe, like. I'd really appreciate that if you enjoy my work, or any suggestions are always super appreciated. But enough talk. Let me talk a little bit more though about Paul Keres. Today we will be looking at a game between Paul Keres and Keres-Alekhine. We already know who Keres-Alekhine was. Let's hear a little bit about Paul Keres. He was born in 1916 and he was an Estonian grandmaster. In fact, he was born in the Russian Empire, but you know, nowadays it's Estonia. He was a top player in the world between 1930s, maybe middle 1930s till 1960s. He had the chance, let's say in a way, to play against Keres-Alekhine in a match for the World Championship title, but unfortunately that match did not happen because he was supposed to start the planning in 1938, and then the Second World War broke down and the match got cancelled, so he missed that opportunity. And it seems that he might have missed 4 other opportunities to play for the World Championship title because he happened to be the runner-up for a lot of the candidates tournaments, so he would finish second in a lot of these tournaments, and he missed like that 4 opportunities to play for the title. But such is life. He has left a lot for chess, so we definitely need to enjoy that. Yesterday we have seen a study made by him. If you haven't seen the Seasoned Up Sunday, make sure you go back and check out the Rook Endgame video. Additionally, you will see another study that's very important to know, which was invented by Emanuel Lasker. Okay, so Paul Keres is the second Paul to chess because the first one, and very famous, was Paul Morphy. So he actually got nicknamed Paul II, which is quite cool if you think that we had another Paul II, the Pope, and he had done a lot for humanity. Paul Keres has done a lot for chess. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed this game, and share, subscribe, like, share it with your friends. Anything you can do to help promote this YouTube channel will be greatly appreciated. Meanwhile, let's just enjoy this beautiful game between Paul Keres and Keres-Alekhine, played in 1937. So we have which opening? The Spanish, Rhe Lopez, a6, bishop a4, and here we see this line, d6. These days, knight f6 is very popular. Just playing the normal Rhe Lopez, and then you have a bunch of variations you can choose from, but Alekhine chose on those times to play d6. Okay, well, here some natural approaches would be, well, d6 has been played, the knight has remained pinned, so therefore it doesn't really control the center that much anymore because it's pinned. So we could be thinking about some d4. But if we play d4 immediately, there's this b5 with tempo, you have to go back, and now black has the opportunity of trading everything in the center. And if you take back with the queen, you gotta be super careful because there's c5 and c4 about to happen, and you might be losing some material. So after knight takes d4, e takes d4, white cannot capture back in d4, so he has to be ready for playing either a4 or c3. One of these possibilities. Be cautious if you want to play this line. Do not capture 2 times in d4, okay? But other possibilities that are more natural here are also c3, for example, for white to just kind of prepare d4, because we have seen we cannot play d4 immediately. So c3 would be a possibility to prepare d4. And of course, if bishop e7, we are going to play d4. But in this game, Keres opted for another approach. He played c4, which this is more rare actually, but not as rare as you might think. It actually happened to me this summer. I was playing something similar and my opponent played c4. I was a little bit shocked, but it's a really interesting idea because you're stopping black from playing b5. And although you're giving the d4 square, you are still kind of ready to play d4. How is black going to develop the pieces not to allow the d4? So like that, white would have a multitude of pawns in the center. c4 was played here, and now bishop d7 was Alekhine's response. Of course, he wants to get rid of the pin and then hopefully get the opportunity of stabilizing a knight in d4, but it's not very easy because, you know, there's a possibility of take, and it's not clear if that is what you want with white. And if you think about it, this is a really interesting idea with c4 for white. Knight c3, g6 was Alekhine's response, and it makes sense to play g6, bishop g7, because you know that white, by playing c4, has weakened the d4 square, so he's not going to stay too long before wanting to play d4. So if you have the opportunity of developing your pieces to stop that d4, you have to do it as fast as you can. And this is what Alekhine is doing. But Keres didn't let that happen. He played d4 immediately. Now bishop g7 was played. I personally think that in this position, black's better choice would have been to take. Because now after knight takes d4, yes, it's true, white does have the center, but we're not trading here to allow the queen to take, and we have problems with the rook that we just played g6 and weaken up the diagonal. But here we could play maybe bishop g7 to finish up the development. If you want to double my pawns, that's fine. I'll make sure I trade my bishop because we don't have that much space with black, so any piece that's being traded is good for us. Take back with the pawn, and this position should be quite okay for black. I mean, I'm finishing up my development. I can castle. Things are quite good. But Alekhine decided not to take in d4 just yet, but to finish his development first. And now Keres played bishop e3. And here, knight f6. I think this was a slight mistake. It is natural to finish the development, but we need to figure out what's going to happen. What is white's threat in this position? And I think Alekhine neglected a little bit white's threat. Instead, he had to take in d4, and then when we take back with the knight, we can now play knight f6. It's not natural to give away the center, but when you have no choice, and Alekhine was kind of famous for that, like he invented the Alekhine defense, right? So the e4 knight f6 first move, and then e5 knight d5. So black doesn't put any pawn in the center, but allows white to go with all the pawns to the center, and then just black is going to counterattack the center. So in my opinion, Alekhine should have been ready for this type of positions. But in this game, somehow he thought maybe that he can maintain his central pawn. And he could, but there's a little problem here. White's threat was this. D takes e5. And when you take back with the pawn, bishop c5, stopping you from castling. Instead of d takes e5, knight takes e5 was a possibility, but I think we can simply take and now play bishop c5. But okay, there's not that much to worry about still with black because we have this move, bishop f8. This is a really cool idea because after the capturing e5, these pawns have stabilized in the center, and the bishop in g7 is just closed by its own pawn. So if we have the opportunity of trading that bishop, that's not letting us castle, we could do so. And then if you're thinking of of capturing in f8, no worries, I'll take with the king, and my king will come to g7. The dark square bishop was traded, so I don't have to worry with my king in g7 very much. And this would have been a quite playable position for black, I would say. Yet Alekhine decided to take with the pawn, so didn't allow that many trades. And after bishop c5, you've got to be careful what you're going to do about castling. And Alekhine still could have played this bishop f8, but I don't know here. Without the pieces traded, it might not be as simple for black to play this position, because maybe I can take in c6 and then take in e5, and I like this position a little bit more for white personally, because now you cannot take with the knight in e4 because you allow trades of the queen, and then knight takes c6, and you're gonna lose material. So you have to take with the bishop. So technically you can keep your bishop versus the knight in an open position, but here still I can just capture. And okay, trading the queens is not gonna help, because when you take an e4, my rook gets active, and you're gonna lose some material here. You know, this position is already a little bit bad for black. That's why I was suggesting to capture in e5 with the knight first to get more pieces traded and make white's way of trying to play for win much more difficult. Here, Alekhine played knight h5. And this is a mistake, because when the knight goes away from the center, white immediately gets inside the center. Knight d5, very good move by Paul Keres. Knight f4, knight takes f4, e takes f4, and here e5, keeping this bishop in g7 closed. And also, my bishop is also controlling the diagonal, so you cannot castle. He's actually giving away a pawn, which this was the right moment for Alekhine to actually capture an e5, and if queen e2, it looks bad for black. f6, it looks really bad, but he could have, you know, had some interesting position. Here he could actually sacrifice the piece, I think. Bishop takes a4, and if you take the rook, I take back, and I have a bishop and a rook for the queen. It looks a little bit ugly, but I think it's playable. I think it's playable here. But Alekhine just decided to play g5 here, going for the attack, but the problem is he has remained with the king in the center, and Keres made sure to utilize that to his advantage. Queen d5, centralizing the queen, keeping the position strong. You can't move this bishop because there'll be takes in c6, and now I want to castle long. Bishop f8 finally, but now with g5 you have weakened your position. If you're thinking to take back with the king and try to come to g7, I definitely don't recommend that. So here you have to take with the rook and now long castle. So black is kind of stuck with his pieces. He cannot move the bishop. Alekhine played queen e7 to try to finish up the development, but bishop takes c6 happened. Now queen d3. You still can't castle. I'm holding that against you. I'm also attacking h7. Bishop d7. Now that the bishop went back to try to castle long, the problem is now the queen is supercharged, has to defend the bishop, also the pawn, and Keres immediately took that pawn. But black had to do this. He could not afford to stay with the king in the center. So now finally Alekhine managed to castle, but he has lost a pawn on the way, and here bishop e6 had to be played to try to make some trades, get to an endgame, maybe have some chances to make a draw. Instead, he played f6, after which is giving white some attacking chances. Here, rook takes f6, rook e1, very good move. And Alekhine made his final blunder here. He played queen b4. Instead of that, he had to try some rook e6 maybe. You know, trades are not favorable when you have material disadvantage, but if you have nothing better to do, you might as well just trade and try to have some chances in an endgame. It's better off than being attacked. Here probably we can even enter this endgame and have big chances with white to win this, because, you know, we have a pawn up. But after queen b4, make sure you pause the video and find the final move. queen takes d7 by Keres, and mate, rook e8 mate, next move. Stay tuned for more.